Revenue ticket, okay.
Yeah, and it kills me. Like I've got all these points. I should be using them. Like I have more than I want to have in my account, but
How do you argue with $450?
exactly.
Take what you can, right?
Yeah, but hello and welcome to episode 102 of Dots, Lines, and Destinations. Today, our dots are Chicago O'Hare and Austin's Bergstrom International Airport. Our lines are Tokyo to every Delta hub and Singapore to San Francisco. And our destination is Iran, something we know roughly nothing about. Hey guys, how you doing?
Peachy, yourself?
Oh, getting by.
So a week ago, for those of us in the East Coast, we had, 2.5 feet of snow? Today it was 60 degrees.
Yeah, I rode City Bike today, coming home from the bus. It was awesome.
It's amazing what a week can do.
The good news is it almost has started melting the snow. It's not started. It's almost melted most of the snow up here. That's nice.
That is a perk.
Yeah. Although, and are you dug out and whatnot?
Yeah, by last Sunday it was starting to clear up pretty quickly. Fortunately, we've had a warm week.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I also was somewhat trolled by one of our friends upstate New York, noting that they've had less snow than we have down in Manhattan. So I don't know what the hell's going on anymore, but good times. Let's talk airports, because Chicago held a press conference on a Sunday, which I don't know why that happened, but they held a press conference. We're recording this on Sunday, so this afternoon, announcing the formal work to build a third east-west runway. Is that right?
I think it's like number 5 or 6.
This would be the sixth. This would be the sixth because the 1028s have 3. There's 2 927s, so this would be the sixth.
Oh, okay. I know this was the third 927. I didn't realize the 1028s also lined up. Yeah.
Yeah, they finished the right one last year.
Was that in October?
Yes, the one that's the furthest south. So they renumbered the one in the middle.
Okay. So 6 east-west runways.
Yes.
Okay. What the hell are they going to do with all of those?
More cowbell.
You're going to be waiting longer for a gate. That's
Well, the challenge is, it's great that they're adding 6 runways for traffic and coming and going. That's great. The challenge is the moment they have to go into a crosswind situation, they're left with 2 northeast southwest runways and 2 northwest southeast runways. So between those 4, they can't be used at the same time.
And isn't the one going away, the northeast southwest runway? Isn't that one going away eventually?
They've talked about
that was
it.
part of their master plan.
4L 22.
4 and 22.
I mean, I see that. I'm looking at the chart now, so it's interesting. I mean, you couldn't use 4L 22R with anything else basically operating.
Yeah.
Even if you wanted to, you can use 4R 22L with, I guess, the 9s, maybe sort of, but. I mean, you can't build for every wind situation, so I kind of get it. You build for the most common and the most, frequently used, but that's still a whole lot of runway.
Have you ever come in on one of the southwest and northeast runways, or the northwest?
Yeah.
You have? I've never come in on one.
I've come in on 22 a few times. I've gone out on 4 a few times. I have not come into 32, but I have taken off on 32. 32.
I've departed on 32L a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that used to be the primary departure runway.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one of the other things I read somewhere, and I don't know how true it is, but is that they're working on a centralized de-icing station.
That's nice.
Which should help with freeing up the gates, right? One of the reasons access to the gates sucks is that when they move into de-icing mode, planes get stuck at the gate waiting for de-icing, and then with the alleys and whatnot, can't get out of the way.
But does that actually help or make things worse? Because then you just create congestion at the de-icing pad.
It means I guess for arriving passengers, it's better.
Yeah, they're going to get a gate now.
You think that's going to fix that problem?
I hope.
The challenge is at this point, right? If they're adding more capacity inbound and outbound, that means they're going to try to shove more flights in and out during an hour, which means the slightest delay, everything's going to be constrained much more, and there'll be less padding.
It's okay. You got a 30-minute taxi from the north and south runways anyway, so it doesn't really. I mean, by the time you taxi to the terminal.
And the other part is they stopped using most of those moon shuttles at Dulles, so they can ship some of them up to O'Hare for hard stands.
Yeah, and they didn't they talk about a west terminal, Seth? Wasn't that mentioned that that's a possibility, like a new terminal to the far west of the airport?
I think so, but I didn't catch the details of it. When I went looking for the press release explaining it, I didn't see anything. So.
Oh, okay. What I thought was weird was that like the to do this middle runway that they're talking about, which is, I guess, 9C is what they'll call it. They would have to get rid of the hangars that United and American have.
I mean, are they basically going to put it in the middle, sort of like right through the cross of the 22 and 32?
I think so. I think you can kind of see like where they've already kind of prepared for it with the taxiway that's over there by Signature Flight on the northeast side.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much the exact smack dab middle of the runway there.
Interesting. So not too far north, sort of right between.
Yeah, kind of like right. I mean, it'll be like right almost in the X that creates right there.
Yeah. I guess the weird there is then you almost lose the general aviation ramp too.
But is it possible that they're just moving the north runway or adding another one above it and just renumbering the north runway?
There's no space for another runway north. You're at the freeway at that point.
Are you on the freeway or the side road?
Well, I mean, to have a lengthy runway, you'd be at the freeway. You'd be on 90.
Well, I wonder if they're just going to build on top of it like they've done at other places.
Sweet. You can drive along with the airplanes. Although
I don't know.
I always take the blue line, so I wouldn't get that experience. Damn it.
I'm trying to remember, though, what they were talking about, like their master plan was. I feel like they were moving everything north, and Signature, like the FBO, was moving north a little bit as well.
Yeah.
So I know on some maps you can see that they actually have construction north of where the private flights are now. Like there's actually like the ground is torn up, and they're moving stuff already. So I wonder if that's still in play.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I see what you're talking about. North of Signature Flight, there's a whole bunch of construction going on.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, the interesting thing about this is, partly that they're doing it, but also mostly that they are breaking ground in May.
Wow.
I mean, both the mayor and the woman who, I don't know what her role or title was because I didn't catch it during the presentation today, during the press conference, but both of them talking about this basically said, we're just going to go ahead and get this done, thanks. So there's a meeting next on this coming Friday, so the day after the episode comes out, for interested bidders to have the technical conversations and sort of the presentation of what the bid package should be. Bids are due in March, which is a very quick turnaround for something this big, and they expect groundbreaking in May.
Wow.
So they're trying to get this done before there's some new event happens.
Yeah, I can't tell if it's because they've got money now, or they think they have money now, or like we're trying to get this in before the election. That's probably what it is.
They don't happen to have an Olympic bid, do they?
They didn't win it. They already lost it.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it was also interesting to me, like just speaking of like sort of how it all is coming together in the timing. They already had put out a bid for improving Midway, which they put out for bid last year, awarded it last year, but construction there doesn't start till next year. So in some ways, right, this is, it was good that they did that first because at least people will pay attention to it as opposed to if they try to do it at the same time, everybody, focus on the $1.3 billion project at O'Hare. But it's a little funny to me that they expect to break ground on this even before they're breaking ground on the project at Midway that was previously bid.
Well, the reality is there's a lot more traffic at O'Hare, and that's much, aside from Southwest is the only one who really benefits with anything at Midway.
Yeah.
Did they say what their impetus was, like why they all of a sudden felt like a runway was a huge improvement? Because I didn't catch anything that sounded like.
I caught a lot of comments about bringing more jobs to Chicago, so that was good news.
Okay.
No is the short answer. I have no idea what they're thinking.
But I guess I don't know how often you guys fly through Chicago, and if you've done it recently, do they really need a 6th runway?
Well, that was sort of what I was getting at earlier. I can't imagine they do.
That's my consensus, and even before all this modernization, I don't remember there being massive delays unless there was an issue with weather, where you were limited on what you could and could not use from runways.
I always thought the delays at O'Hare were almost always due to tarmac and apron issues, like delays on the ground. I never had a hold over before landing at Chicago.
No, and quite frankly, the problem is the ground doesn't get much better. There's still all these intersecting roadways, and they don't have a lot of taxiway capacity to some of these runways, like that north runway, the one in Milwaukee. There's really one way out there and one way back.
Yeah. I think I landed out there the other day.
And the ones that are closer to the terminal, they're too close to the terminal where they conflict with the terminal traffic.
Yeah, you know what I'm doing right now? I'm playing producer. I'm looking up the master plan.
Oh, you're not playing parachute producer?
No, I'm looking this up. I want to know what the actual master plan document has.
I'm looking at this. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But also, like, if you put that in and it goes where we've been talking about, you're losing a ton of like ground facility.
Yeah. So the eventual.
So what I see on the map is 9, 9R and 9C is actually just south of the hangar complex where there's a parking lot.
Yep.
And so then right now we run very close to the hangars, but there's a parking lot 9C ends.
Yeah, like I was going to say, like, so it looks like from the master layout, you get rid of 14 right, 32 left, and 14 left, 32 right in the long term.
Okay.
So the eventual plan is to get rid of those 2 runways, which, okay, kind of makes sense. And then you keep 4 left and 4 right, and then you've got 6 parallel runways, and 9C is the one between the new one that they're talking about.
And so it'll be just south of signature flight?
Or part of it. Like, it'll be it. It'll pretty much be right there.
It's basically where 32L ends. That's where 9C starts.
Where 32L ends? 32L ends. 32L. Okay, hang on. I'm looking at this upside down because that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, Faz, I don't know if I understand what you're saying.
The
32.
north end of 32L?
Yeah, the northwest corner of 32L is where 9C begins, basically.
Okay, so that's right. So that's going to go right. That's going to cross through the middle of the X of the other 2, and it's going to go right through the hangar complex.
Yep.
Okay, so the one map I'm seeing, so they're moving one of the hangar complexes. Because the United hangar complex is north of that. That hangar complex over there is primarily a parking lot, from what I remember. There might be some regional hangars, but I don't think it's one of the big hangars that you guys are talking.
It's a parking lot.
That's crazy, though. I mean,
Hangar 5A and a parking lot. It is United, but so this will be north of the United hangar then. But it's still going to go through the middle of that space that right now is hangars and parking, both for cars and for planes. I mean, looking at it, that's where we did a couple of years ago. That's where we did our drive the de-icer truck stuff.
Yep. And the other piece of this is eventually 9 right will be extended past where 32L is. So it'll go through it eventually. So it'll be a longer runway. Yeah.
That makes sense. And I almost wonder why you don't just do that and kill 32. Like, does the 6th one get you? I guess there's just enough lateral spacing that they can use them for concurrent operations. I
think you can do departures on one and then arrivals on the one next to it, but you can't do arrivals on both. Just like you can't do arrivals on the south runways, the 10C and 10L. You can't do arrivals on those together.
If those look closer together. Oh, wait, 10C and 10L? You can't?
Yeah, you can't.
You can do departures on one arrivals, but you can't do simultaneous arrivals.
Okay.
But my concern personally is that they're going to have 6 east-west runways. They're only going to have 2 crosswind runways, and so and Chicago is known for its wind. So they're going to cut to 30% capacity in those cases.
I think they'll just suck it up. I haven't seen a crosswind that bad at O'Hare with the east-west runways. I mean, the prevailing wind is eastward.
It is.
So,
but in the winter, it does shift.
It does. So I don't know, though. I mean, even if it shifts westward, then you still can use the westward arrivals, right?
Right, but often in the winter, it comes from the north. It's all the Arctic air coming down.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. So this is all part of the master plan, and they announced it today, and United and American were both there, correct?
Oscar was there.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it's interesting. He looks good, sounds good. Even the American guy we had there, an executive vice president there, and before giving his prepared remarks, threw a shout out to Oscar for managing to be there and walking around so quickly. So that was interesting.
So it's the end of the month. So what does the end of January signify? Is it like the end of the fiscal budget year or something for Chicago?
That could be. All right, guys, got to burn it off. Can't
exactly. Or we haven't used enough of our snow budget this year, so let's go build a runway.
Well, right. I mean, some of it is matching funds from the FAA, so it's like $350 million, but that's still not enough to justify spending nearly $1 billion of what are essentially PFCs.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll find out when it actually gets built, and we figure out who gets the extra monies.
Yeah, that's $1.13 billion for that runway.
It's crazy, but such is life. So Austin, Texas, is also expanding. And this is an interesting one to me. They're not expanding the runways, they're actually expanding the terminal, which arguably is what we've been talking, needs to happen in various places. But they're adding an extra 9 gates is the plan. And mostly near or associated with the international FIS facility. And if you look at the rendering, it's got the split level access stuff to be able to do arrivals and departures through FIS.
Right.
And
so are they adding this on the east side of the airport terminal? Okay.
If I'm looking at this correctly.
Yeah, it is the east side, yes.
They show a picture that goes left to right, and it's at the right edge, so I'll say yes, but I'm not sure that it's...
So, it's been a while since I've been to Austin. There isn't that much space between the end of the building, is there?
On the east side, yeah. So the west side it's lopsided to the west side. So there's probably just enough space for 9 gates. Maybe. I think it'd be a little tight, but
Right, but I know there's some. Yeah, I mean, they're clearly not going to be wide body gates.
no, I don't think so.
Well, I see what you're saying, Stephen. Yeah, so it is currently lopsided to the west, and so they can't extend out to the east. There's probably room to make some of them wide body gates, maybe just the ones on the end.
Yeah, I mean, because that's where the BA flight is now. On that end.
Yeah, the rendering from the city shows 3 narrow bodies, 3 787s, and then 3 narrow bodies or 4 narrow bodies around the back.
Interesting. I mean, United's brought in 753s on the backside of their end of the concourse, which would be about the same size as what they're adding.
But do they block an adjacent gate when they do?
It has to be pulled. It has to be towed in, and it gets towed into the most inside gate.
Okay, that's good. Sure, we can move an extra 200 people, but it takes 45 minutes to move in and out.
Yeah, exactly. The time we did it, it turned a 45-minute flight into an hour and a half.
Nice.
Well, and as we know, you have to be really careful when you land an A380 at Austin.
Did we ever talk about that?
No, we did not.
Go for it.
What was that? What was that? A month ago or so, when they had the nasty thunderstorms in Houston and Dallas and the tornadoes, and everything was diverting, and the Emirates inbound almost landed in Houston, and then at the last minute diverted to Austin. And I guess the pilot had gone a little too far on one of the taxiways because the airport's not designed for a 380, and they got stuck. And I don't remember how they eventually got the plane out. Do you?
The airport is okay with it, but not all taxiways are, right? They were going to hit something if they kept going. They were going to clip something when they got there.
They were going to hit the cargo area. Yeah, the cargo area.
So, yeah, that's awkward.
So they had a back taxi and then turn around on the runway or in that area there and then come back into the terminal.
And did the people, because it was they ended up taking a 16-hour delay, did they eventually get bused to Houston, or did they actually have to sit on the plane for 16 hours and then because they couldn't go to a gate because none of the gates are A380 capable?
I don't know. I mean, that's the one piece that we never figured out.
They were driving the crew down from Houston that was supposed to work the return flight just to do the hop back to Houston. I thought that was one of the stories we heard.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's a 4-hour drive, 3-hour drive, right?
3-hour drive in ideal conditions, and if the weather really was that bad, I don't know how long it took them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think maybe you need a little more investigation. I would love to know what they did with the crew, the passengers during that period of time. Because I mean, just the time that we were having the discussion, we were chatting about this online for the people who are listening. We were chatting on WhatsApp or whatever at the time, and this was 3 hours after the flight had landed. Someone goes, "Hey, by the way, where is that A380 sitting at Bergstrom?" And then we all started talking about where it could be, and we started listening to the ATC recording. And then 4 hours have gone by, and we're like, it still hasn't left yet. And I don't think it left until 3 a.m. So
yeah, I mean, and it got in at 4 in the afternoon, 3 in the afternoon, something like that.
Yeah.
So it was there for a really long time.
Yeah, nuts so. Well, hey, listen, if they expand the terminal, they still won't have space for it, so they've got that going for them.
Well, maybe they'll put a 380 gate in just for those diversions.
Yeah, I'm going to bet against that.
Well, that's going away, Foz. No more 380 to Houston from Emirates, remember?
Oh, that's right.
They won't have that problem. They won't have that problem any longer.
Yeah.
So. But there's still 380s to Dallas, right?
No, that one's going away too.
But isn't Qantas a 380 now?
Qantas is a 380, and Lufthansa is a 380 to Houston.
Yeah, so there's still 380s. I mean, unless they finally build out that hub in Baton Rouge.
That's the Emirates hub?
The Emirates hub.
Yeah. Well, we can hope. We can hope.
I mean, I think this is great for Austin. I think it speaks to the growing economy there, and hopefully that continues. I think one of the issues they're actually gonna have runway issues. I mean, they're already limited.
I think even before runway issues, they're going to have a problem getting people in and out of the airport.
Yes, yeah. I know that's a big complaint of yours. It's the lack of road access to the airport.
Yeah, you've got those 2 traffic lights which end up holding up traffic and causing all sorts of traffic backups. But I mean, it's not designed for that much car traffic, so it's not going to be a hub. So it'll primarily be O&D traffic. So they have to make some drastic infrastructure changes.
Yeah, you'd hope that doing this, they would also put a flyover for accessing the highway right there, but that doesn't seem to be happening. One
thing I noticed last time I was through there, the gates are even crowded. So, there's 2 security checkpoints. There's the one that's the main central checkpoint, and then there's the one that's off to the side, you're heading to the United gates. So coming out of that side one, if you were to turn you were going to the American gates that are next to Southwest, that whole area, if you're there during a busy time, you can't even walk through there because it's just it's full all the time.
Yeah.
So
right? Is this this is part of the challenge of upgauging across the industry? They built these terminals based on, we get flights that are on 50 to 120 seat planes, and we get this many an hour, so this is how many seats we need or how much space we need. And now instead of 50 to 120 seat planes, you're getting the 70 to 180 seat planes.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, where else would they add flights to from Austin?
Well, they had some flights to Mexico. Those didn't work out all that great. They'll come back, I think. And United does like one-offs to Cancun and Cozumel out of Austin. I think Delta does as well.
But isn't that during spring break season because of the university?
Yeah, it's mostly during spring break.
Yeah, but I mean, where else would you really need service to from Austin?
I don't know.
All the other hubs are represented. Clearly, we have Heathrow now.
I know there's a rumor about Air Canada wanting to start some service, but you wouldn't need immigration facilities for that if they were.
Yeah, but you still need gates, so you may as well use the ones that are there.
Yep.
Well, okay, so 9 more gates though. That's adding a lot more capacity, right? What are the clearly they're going to start if they do commit. They're committing to building these gates. The next process is going to be courting airlines to start new service to facilitate those gates.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I could see Mexico City, maybe some Latin America. There's a huge Latino population in Austin. I could see, Guadalajara. I could see San Salvador easily, because then those people have to connect through Houston for a 30-minute flight to Austin.
Right. But think about in the case of going through Houston or Dallas, right? It's not just people coming from Austin. They have a lot more feed coming in that can drive that, and there's also the whole thing of premium passengers, right? At the end of the day, the premium passengers are what really drive where the routes go because that's what drives the revenue for it.
Well, I think you'll see like Interjet come in and things like that too. I don't think it's going to be necessarily the big guys.
Because Viva Aerobus worked out so well?
Viva Aerobus just didn't work out, period. But I think Interjet has a model that actually seems to work with the Sukhois. And, I think those low-cost carrier, and hell, you never know. You might have Spirit moving in. To me, that's really Spirit seems to be like the plague that moves in everywhere. It's like locusts.
I'm not sure that Spirit would try to significantly jack up there just based on it's having so much fun screwing with American at Dallas.
True.
But I could see Frontier showing up.
Yeah, and they used to have a bigger presence there.
Yeah, I'm just looking at like flights added in 2015 are listed as Orlando, Miami, Toronto, Portland, St. Louis, and Cincinnati, plus BA in 2014 as destinations. That sounds like Frontier to me.
Frontier shows up, but they stick around for a few months, and they say this isn't working, they go out elsewhere, right? There's enough pricing pressure between Southwest American and United that it would be an uphill battle for Frontier.
True. But the way they're structuring their flights now and stuff, and if they were just to offer it to
whatever stuff,
I could easily see them coming in and offering a 3 times a week to Mexico City or something, something of that nature, easily.
Trenton to Austin.
St. John's. That's a route that's going away. I forgot about that. Or it's already gone. I think it ends today.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
The Newark St. John's route.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
So anyway, sorry, I dragged us off topic, but I think it'll be cool. I do think that you're right, Fuzz. The traffic situation, I think the terminal situation. They built a new parking garage, which it's nice, but it's even more of a traffic headache now because it actually intersects with another parking garage. So you're like it's 2 parking garages exiting into each other. It's weird. Last time we were through there, it was a big mess. So I hope they get their stuff together.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting problem.
Yeah.
I mean, but I guess from an international standpoint, where else would they be able to? What other airlines would be able to come in there from an international perspective, long haul international, and actually make it work? I mean, clearly BA has somehow been successful, and they're upgrading it to 777. But would Lufthansa, Condor, or would any of the Japanese carriers?
Didn't Condor actually say that they were looking at Austin as a potential route? I'm trying to remember. I think they did.
But they may have. But I could see Condor. I sort of could see one of the Japanese carriers looking at it, just some of the Dell and other technology connections. But at the same time, I'm not sure what the 787 situation is and what they'd be able to get sort of capacity-wise. I know ANA is just starting up the second Houston flight, or has started up the second Houston flight, so they're seeing something better there. But at the same time, with currency challenges and with other, just general economic challenges they're seeing, that could be an interesting one.
Maybe Hainan will start service to there.
Beijing to Austin.
Well, through some other random small city, right? Isn't that part
Calgary. Through Calgary.
Yes, right.
We talked. They have They have the Calgary flight, which we were really surprised about. So maybe they'll just make it a one-stop service through Calgary.
I don't know if they have Fifth Freedom rights on those routes, but sure, we'll go with it. All right.
So sorry.
Yeah, moving on. Lines. San Francisco to Singapore.
Exciting.
Coming back on United, which was somewhat long rumored, but still somewhat unexpected.
Coming back?
Sorry, not coming back. I'm sorry. Non-stop service from Singapore to the United States is what I meant is coming back.
Now, the question that I have, because this is really stretching the limits of the 789.
Sure.
Will this be the new 7.5, and what will be the Goose Bay of the Pacific?
Well, I don't know. But I'm just thinking, I'm not sure that there would be somewhere. I think that would be...
I mean, it depends on the routing you take, right? Years ago, I flew LA-Singapore, and it's actually a very southern routing. So I imagine they don't go, do the Great Circle route, so you wouldn't possibly have Midway Island, which would be an option. But that's not really a fuel stop, right? I mean, unless it's an emergency. Do they fly via Honolulu?
That's a good question. I mean, even then, like once you get past Honolulu, then what's your turnaround then? I guess Midway is really it.
Taipei?
Yeah. Manila.
No, I think Manila is even first. Guam? I mean, that puts you out of the way, but it has the range to get to Guam.
Well, they've already said they've already said they're gonna restrict cargo on it, right? I mean, they know that they're gonna have to do that.
And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure 789 cannot land on Kwajalein.
No, you're pretty much right. It's an aircraft carrier.
So you don't have to worry about getting diverted there, Stephen. I know that's a sore spot for you.
A little bit.
Yeah, well, it's only a 6,600 foot runway. They probably aren't going to land there.
Yeah, they could land there. They're just not going to be able to take off.
I was going to say, if they could land, they just might not be able to leave.
Certainly not with everybody still on board. Not to mention, does Kwajalein have fuel? I guess they probably have to have it for the Army stuff, but...
Yeah, I think they have fuel, but do they have enough to get it off the ground? I don't know.
Well, you'd want to have it ridiculously lightly loaded, right?
True.
But it's still just enough to get back to
Guam, I guess.
To Majuro.
But is the runway at Majuro long enough?
Yeah, it's 8,000 feet.
Okay.
And that's where the Island Hopper tanks up before it does its, the hops.
That's true.
So, anyways.
Anyway, yeah, we can get back on track.
Overrated. That's what you get when you let me control the show. But one of the interesting things about that line, obviously, is changing the role of Narita. As part of it, United is dropping its Narita to Singapore service. A couple years ago, it dropped Narita to Bangkok. It dropped Narita to Hong Kong. It dropped Narita to Taipei. The only thing left at this point is Narita Seoul, right?
Yeah, Narita Seoul.
Narita Guam, Narita Seoul.
Guam, yes.
And there's no Narita Hong Kong anymore, is there? Or there still is.
No, I thought they dropped that.
Was there ever? No, they haven't. They haven't had that in years. That used to be an ANA route.
Gotcha.
But I assume Narita Beijing and Narita Shanghai are gone.
Yeah, they overfly those. I mean, right, this is sort of like the death of the Narita hub. I mean, it's been dying and on life support for a long time, but this is the final straw.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, they still fly to all the hubs from there.
Yeah.
Right? There's still a fair bit of lift out of Narita.
They're all wide bodies. There's 747s and 777s, 78 to Denver.
Yep.
But it's no longer a hub. It's a well-served destination.
Yeah.
And Orlando gets service from all the hubs, too. It's not a hub.
And they're just using ANA for their continuation traffic. So.
Yeah, I mean, they've got the joint venture for service to most of Asia, right? Not China, not India, I think are the main exceptions, not Australia. But everything else over there is JV'd. So it's from United's perspective, it's great in that they can overfly for the nonstop service for the people who need to connect or the people who need the extra stop or, multi-city routings they can share. It's hard to see it as too big a pain point from United's perspective, but I don't know, in some ways it's a little sad to see the hub disappear. But with all the additional nonstop flights from the U.S. at mainland to Asia, it sort of makes sense.
Yeah, and for me, the big thing about the Singapore flight is that it leaves San Francisco at nearly midnight.
Yeah.
Arrives in the morning 2 days later into Singapore.
Coincidentally, I don't know if you guys noticed this, flight number 1, and Singapore 1 also leaves around that time, goes to Hong Kong. And can you imagine the debacle of boarding at the same time, 2 flight 1s?
Well, I hope people can tell the difference between Singapore and United. I hope.
Have you been in San Francisco at that hour of the night with that many people?
No, thankfully not.
That's a hope that's not well founded. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, I mean, and the upside of Singapore Narita going away is that flight left at a god awful hour. It was like 5:45 in the morning, it's a 6-hour flight, 7-hour flight up to Tokyo, and so you're just beat up by the time it's all said and done. I would much rather just get on a nonstop at a normal time. I think it leaves Singapore at like 10 in the morning and then lands in San Francisco. I can't remember what time it lands, like 9 o'clock at night or something. Is that right? Can't remember.
Is it that late?
Is it that?
Or is it earlier than that?
Either way, yeah, I don't remember the exact time. I can look it up while we're talking here. But I love the flight times. I think they're great flight times. It's a 16-hour flight or 15-hour flight coming back, and it's a 14 or 15-hour time difference. It may land at like roughly the same time it took off.
Oh, okay. Well,
So it probably lands, like it takes off at 10 a.m. and lands at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. I think.
Yeah.
10 p.m.
That's great.
Yeah. No, the flight times are great both ways if you're on the West Coast. They're even pretty good if you're connecting anywhere sort of west of Chicago/Houston.
Yep.
So I like the flight times. I like it. What's interesting about it to me, though, is in many ways this is preparing United to, we said there's no longer a hub at Narita. This sort of prepares United to ditch Narita altogether if they can get Haneda slots.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
And they're the ongoing negotiations between Japan and the United States to open up more slots at Haneda, including possibly daytime slots.
So Singapore, San Francisco leaves at 8:45 a.m., gets into San Francisco at 9:15 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay.
So even going to the East Coast, that's reasonable because you could get on at 11 a.m. out of San Francisco and be home by 8.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I to me, the Haneda thing makes sense. Do you think that they'll completely just abandon Narita, though?
I think if they could get the flights to Haneda, they would.
I mean, so they would
leverage ANA in the JV if people want to be there.
So do you think that they would, instead of doing like a 777 to Tokyo Haneda from San Francisco, they would up it to a 744 or 2 flights a day from San Francisco? Because, I mean, they're doing Haneda and Narita.
Maybe they keep one from San Francisco.
Gotcha.
But I can see them moving if they can get, and it also depends on how many slots they get, right? I mean, I think the negotiations right now are for like 10 additional slot pairs. So that's clearly not enough for all the U.S. carriers to split.
So, I mean, the question that I have is clearly there's, people are trying to shift to Haneda more and more. Will Japan stop the growth at Haneda because they'll see that it's killing Narita?
Well, you'd think they would have seen that already if that's what was going to happen, because it's obviously happening. I mean, hell, Delta says they're just going to stop flying to Japan.
Well, Delta's, just blowing smoke up. I'm trying to bite my tongue here.
Well,
damn it, Foz, I was baiting you and you didn't take it.
Sorry.
I slipped it in there. I didn't prep you for it. I thought I was going to pull it off.
I mean, Delta's the epitome of we're going to take our toys and go home if you don't do what we want.
Well, do you think that Japan's already kind of seen the issues with Narita? I mean, they can't expand it anymore runway-wise, right, with all the people that are holding out, living where they want to put runways.
I think part of the problem with Narita, with Japan in general, right, is it used to be the connecting point to get into Asia. Now, with the range of planes, airlines don't need that connecting point.
True. That's a good point.
And that's, and I think with what Japan's trying to do with the Haneda, with the opening of Haneda, is keeping more of the traffic, preventing people from connecting somewhere else, and at least being able to serve their people. So, I mean, in some ways, I actually wouldn't be surprised if Narita goes away in a decade or two.
Yeah.
Now, because here's the thing, Japan still needs more traffic than either one can support on its own. Or Tokyo has too many passengers for that to happen, I think.
But it'll be like a Gatwick-Heathrow situation.
Fair, but so it's not going to go away. It may be the less ideal option, but it's always sort of been the less ideal option, except that you couldn't go anywhere from Haneda, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So as the number of options to get places increases, but almost in some ways, Haneda seems like London City to me. It's not connecting traffic nearly as much anymore, or at all. And so there are a lot of places, right? It's all O&D, like City.
Yep.
So I wonder if, in some ways, that's going to make a difference where Narita will still be the Heathrow-esque sort of connecting passengers versus O&D traffic, but you need enough of both, right?
Yeah.
To maintain.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Narita, the challenge with Narita versus London is 6 hours, 3,500 miles from the east coast of the U.S., and you can use the same piece of equipment to do a flight and back.
Right.
Can't do that. You can't do that with Narita.
Right.
Or you can barely do it with Narita. It's 2,000 more miles each way. So it creates more operational challenges for efficiency. And what we've seen, the strategy that the airlines have had is we'll just do flyovers and just go, we see United going deeper and deeper into mainland China at this point.
Yeah, Xi'an.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to me, Narita, when you look at the flights that come out of Narita to places like Guam and Honolulu, like there's only 1 or 2 Haneda flights that go to Honolulu or Guam, and maybe none to Guam. So it's this weird. It's ANA seems to be tweaking their schedule to say we're only going to put certain planes in Narita to certain destinations, and the rest are all going to Haneda. They've moved most of their European stuff to Haneda.
Well, that's an easy answer. It's the high revenue stuff.
Yeah,
Guam
that's
and
really what it is.
Yeah, Guam and Honolulu are not a high revenue.
So I guess now the question becomes, can they run A380s out of Haneda? Can
I think
ANA?
I read somewhere that a 380 has landed there, maybe.
But
With ANA getting 3 of them, it's important.
But they're going to use those for leisure routes, right? I bet you those are still going to be primarily served out of Narita.
Yeah, they cannot run to... The 380 cannot go to Haneda, sorry.
Yeah,
so there you go. The fate of Narita is sealed.
Maybe. I don't know.
Between the ANA 380s and possibly the 5 A380s Iran Air is buying?
It has landed there. No, 8, Foz. I ran up there, ordered 8, but we're not there yet.
I just tried to set it up for you.
Yeah. Haneda can handle a 380 and that it has landed there in the past. It did in 2010 on the World Tour, but I don't think there are any gates. So there aren't any A380 gates in Honolulu either. But
so what's another Austin?
Yeah, sure. It'd be great.
It can land there. It just can't go anywhere.
Alrighty. So speaking of A380s, Iran is buying 8 of them.
I would like to know what destinations are going to serve with these.
Well, the ones that they aren't going to serve with their 12 A350-1000s.
Or is this going to be the new refugee airline?
Ouch. They're getting a couple dozen A330s also. It's a ridiculous order. But
I can tell you they won't be used for Hajj flights.
Yeah, exactly. But does this make sense to either of you?
No.
Okay.
What are the odds that they actually take delivery of the A380s? I mean, I could see them maybe getting like 1. And that's it.
And I was wrong. It's 12 A380s, not even 8.
So, I mean, I think Seth summarized this the best that I've heard yet. It's like a person who just wins a lottery and they just go burning money.
It's ooh, shiny toy, gimme, gimme, gimme. And like, I get that they haven't been able to buy new planes in, 40 years? 30 years?
Mm-hmm.
Oops, sorry. That's my computer making fun noises. Hope everybody heard that. So I get for trying to read news during the broadcast. Yeah, I mean, like, they literally are going out and buying everything they possibly can get their hands on. And put orders in and hope some stuff gets delivered before they either run out of cash or are cut off again. So, like, in that sense, I get it. But I think, like, you got to be a little prudent in terms of picking stuff that's going to work for your needs going forward, not just get one of everything and see how it goes.
Do you think they got some kind of deal on the A380s, and that's why?
God, I hope so.
But, okay, so you buy the 380. You still have to build up all this infrastructure. None of your airports or anything can handle that today.
Yeah, right. That is. I mean, they're getting people to help build them new facilities and whatnot, but that is a special construction project, bigger and different than everything else. So you can't just be like, oh, we're going to modernize it. We're going to modernize and do the A380 support. It's a huge expense, and I get that. And someone pointed out to me that like a lot of hundreds of billions of potentially hundreds of billions of dollars, if not certainly tens of billions of dollars, have been unfrozen by the U.S. government. But I still kind of feel like you need that to, like, I don't know, get your economy and your world back in order, not just go spend 10 or 20 billion on your aviation infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, they're flying SPs to places like Bangkok and I can't remember where else. So it's I can see that they have a need, but
but you can replace. They have 40 planes in their fleet today, including a bunch of like Fokkers. They're buying 115 or 118 new planes. They're going to triple their fleet size, admittedly over like a decade, but triple the fleet size that quickly? What are you going to do with all of them?
But do they have the passengers to go on all these flights?
No. Even if the passenger capacity doubles next year, which some are predicting it could, visitors to Iran, most of them aren't going to fly on Iran Air. And even doubled, like, the rest of the industry is going to help pick that up. There's just this, I don't know, it makes no sense to me. But, hey, good for them. Good for Airbus, in theory, if they actually ever get paid for them.
It might not be an issue of getting paid for them. It might just be an issue of keeping the A380 line alive and subbing it out for some other aircraft down the road.
How does that help Airbus?
I think Airbus has a hubris problem right now where they don't want to kill the A380 program.
Well, sure.
So it lets them say we have orders on the books, so the board doesn't have to kill the program. Planes get manufactured. There's no place for them to go. They end up fire selling them to ANA or some other, to Interjet.
Yeah, see, the 27 A330s makes sense to me.
But where are they going to fly?
But here's the thing, that almost makes sense to me, though. Not all at once, and it's 27 classics and 18 Neos, so that's a lot. But I could have figured, I could have seen 27 or so combined over the next decade, not 45.
But let's take a step back. Do you see in 10 years Tehran being a major hub flying the 40 A330s to different parts of the world?
It used to be.
Right, but it used to be when planes didn't have a long range, it was just part of the milk run.
Yeah, it was
True.
and it was a better routing from India. When you're going from India to Europe, it was the right location.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now the planes fly further. Passengers are connecting in Doha, Dubai, and Abu Dhabi instead. And someone said, why can't they take over and just be another like ME3 carrier? But ask Gulf Air, ask Saudia, ask all the others who have tried. Royal Jordanian, like that's why.
Yeah.
4330s, average of 250, 300 people on a plane. You're looking at something around 12,000 people a day.
3.5 million passengers a year.
Yeah, those aren't realistic.
That's just the 330s.
Yeah, those aren't realistic numbers.
Well, I mean, to give you an idea of some of the places they do fly, like Iran Air flies Tehran to Beirut on an A300, and they do that like 4 times a day. So there's that.
Yeah, how much traffic do you think they got going in and out of Beirut these days?
Exactly.
I mean, I'm sure the plane is flying, but how many people are?
Yeah, that's true. I'm just telling you what they schedule. So I mean, they clearly have their people are traveling. They have to be. I mean, they wouldn't fly the route, right?
Probably.
Now these might not be 330 combis, would they? Where they're shipping goats back and forth?
No. Oh my god.
Next topic.
No, they're not combis. Smart ass.
Even if they are.
Wait, there's another carrier called Taban Airlines that flies Istanbul to Tehran with an A300 or an A310. Excuse me. There you go, Seth. That's how we get to Tehran.
Again. Nice.
But no, but seriously, think about this, right? They would, the one thing they will need more of is cargo capacity. That I could totally understand. I don't understand the passenger capacity, but I totally see a need for cargo capacity moving forward.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I don't think any of us really get it. We don't understand. Seth's explanation is the only one that makes any sense.
Yes, it does.
It's like a kid in a candy store just buying everything and then getting a sick stomach and throwing it up on the sidewalk. It's just crazy.
All right, so Cathay. Speaking
Well,
of
at least, yes.
You want a parting shot there, Foz?
I was gonna say at least they have a desert where they can park these things.
Oh man!
So I know who's not. I know who's not going. I know who's not going to Tehran with.
Oh man! You're gonna apply for our visas before we release this episode, right?
Exactly.
Cathay.
My name is Rolando Veloso.
Oh, ouch. Cathay has hit some challenges. They announced deferral of some of their 350 orders for a couple years. They announced that they're rebranding Dragon Air as to Dragon Cathay or Cathay Dragon, right?
Yep, Cathay Dragon.
Cathay Dragon. So, and that was basically, I think, my recollection is the original merger required the brand to be kept for some period of time, and that's now expired, and so they're moving on. But they're also significantly hedged for fuel, going something like 4 years out, and like at relatively high prices. So anything's relatively high compared to the $30-odd a barrel we're seeing today. But like to the tune of they've got about $1 billion on the books that they're expecting to lose on fuel hedges in the next 4 years.
Ouch.
That's rough.
And they've got union issues. Right, the pilots are work to rule at this point, which basically, obviously not a strike, but also not doing anything like taking additional hours or being trainers for incoming pilots. I think I saw. So like they are having trouble replacing pilots who are retiring because there's no one to train them. There's the CAPA, Center for Aviation or whatever, has a ridiculously sort of damning story about what the future holds if they can't figure any of this out.
Well, I mean, so what you're saying is I should get Cathay first while I can.
Yeah. I don't think they're going out of business this year or anything, but they definitely have a bumpy and uphill road ahead of them.
Yeah.
So the thing about interesting that thing I always find interesting about Cathay is they're not like an individual company like many airlines are. They're actually part of this large Hong Kong conglomerate called Swire. So will Swire bail them out?
I would imagine the answer is yes, should the time come, but I'm not sure that they're there yet.
Right, but is it that dire? I think that's what I'm asking.
I don't think so, but I mean, even if they lose the $1 billion, losing the $1 billion would suck. But if they can keep prices relatively high and fuel costs relatively low, and maybe they can continue to generate some revenue to offset that sum, they'll have trouble keeping prices high because everybody else who has cheaper fuel is going to be able to cut them.
Yeah, but they do have a premium product, right? There are people who love to fly Cathay. There's a lot of, the one thing about Asia is people always fly business class. They don't do the stuff in the U.S. where you have to fly coach. When you travel for business, you generally travel in business. So there's clearly people paying that premium. And they have a premium product where people do really enjoy that product. Even people who don't live in Hong Kong, they will connect through Hong Kong for Cathay.
Yeah. Enough of them, though? I mean, right? And at what price point? I can't imagine you're going to get a lot of those people wanting to connect through mainland China. So,
No,
so there's that. But how many of those people will start connecting over Taipei and switch to Ava?
I don't think Ava has the same kind of premium offering that Cathay does. I think the only other airline that comes close to them is Singapore.
Are you only talking about first? Or are you talking about business?
Business as well.
Okay.
I think Eva's not as polished.
And
I'm not just talking.
Me, but
I'm talking about the ground from the point you get to the airport to the point you leave the airport.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about just the seat or just the onboard. I'm talking about the whole experience.
Sure. I have no problem believing that it's not as polished, but again, at what price point? And if everybody else is paying a third the price for fuel or half price for fuel, that's going to eventually come back to bite them.
Right, but we see one article, but I'm sure other airlines are just as leveraged on fuel hedges too.
Very few ever invest 4 years out. That's what makes it significant.
Oh, that's true.
Or hedge 4 years out, I should say. Invest is a strange term, but and right, the point that the Kappa story makes is basically Cathay was flush with cash and had these deep pockets, and so it was able to afford to hedge that far out, and now that may burn them. So that's an interesting challenge.
Yeah, but then if oil spikes again, which eventually it will again,
yeah.
Do you think they'll be okay? If they're because how old are their hedges now?
As long as it happens within the next 4 years, sure.
Yeah, because when were the hedges made? Last year?
Yeah, last year they were hedged 4 years out. So they've got 3.5 years to go with it, or 3 years ago.
Fire that analyst.
Yeah, well, sure, but
with Iran dumping oil into the market in the near future, it really is an interesting paradigm as to what's going to happen to the oil industry.
Yeah, I agree. I wonder if the future for Cathay is to not to be bailed out, but to kind of reinvent themselves as no longer just a purely premium carrier, like what you're saying that they do, Foz. I wonder if they're going to have to dump F and just serve business.
Part of why they're bringing the Dragon brand into Cathay is because they need to be able to say, we do the regional short haul, mid-range / LCC model.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I see that.
Is there really a market for first anymore?
In Asia?
In general. In general.
It's a very, very, very small market.
Exactly. So is it worth dedicating a portion of your plane for such a small market?
Yeah, you're giving up 4 rows of business, maybe?
Well, Cathay has 6 seats, so you're probably giving up 3 rows. But you go from 6 to 12. You double the number of seats.
Yeah.
I think the answer is the same as it has been for the rest of the industry over the last probably half decade, which is you still need it on some routes, and there are a few routes that can support it in certain areas, but keeping it everywhere is not likely a smart move. Hell, Singapore is scaled back. Lufthansa is scaling it back. Cathay is even scaling it back. American is, forget the U.S. carriers. Everybody says they suck, which is irrational and stupid, but let's humor them for a moment and say it's okay. We can ignore the U.S. carriers because they don't know what they're doing in the premium world. Even the known premium operators, in premium parts of the world are scaling back where they're offering that premium service.
Yeah. BA's cutting back.
Yeah. Qatar's cutting back. I
don't think Lufty has them. Has Lufty done any reductions yet?
Yeah, they cut out all their 744s.
Oh, I missed that. Okay. I did miss
the 744 refits. They put business upstairs and pulled out the...
But they don't have many 744s left.
Yeah, they're doing it to 340s also. They're cutting it out a lot.
Yeah, the only planes that are going to have it left are going to be the A380s, the 748s, and maybe the 346s. That's about it.
I think even the 346s are losing.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's a significant drop. So, anyway, I think we can debate this, or I'd love to find someone who thinks there's a market for F to continue to be sold. We could get on the show if anyone can find someone.
Credit card turners.
So, next topic.
They weren't half our listener base. They just click threw their iPad out the window.
Sweet. Make sure you catch it. What do you guys think of the new Alaska logo and branding?
Yawn.
Yeah, I'm not a fan, or I'm not like, oh god, it's so ugly. I think it's meh.
Yeah. I still think your quote about it, Stephen, was the best response I've seen.
The Northern Lights thing, where it's spewing Northern Lights out of the engine.
I believe you said the engines are farting Northern Lights, but yes.
It made me realize that I went to the wrong career, and rebranding should have been the career I went into, because it clearly wouldn't require much thought.
It looks a lot like a low-cost carrier livery to me. That's
too many colors, or
just the style, like the bright white with the simplified logo, and then a tail that's stylized with a bunch of colors. And it's not a bad thing. It's clean. It definitely looks cleaner than what they have now with the cheat lines.
Yeah.
But
Are you anti-cheat lines?
no, I think that their livery did look a little. It was older. I mean, it was definitely like it had taken a beating. That white was no longer white anymore.
Yeah.
So I think from that perspective, it was smart. I saw a Ford commercial the other day, though, and they had the exact same colors floating in the background of the Ford commercial, and it really stood out to me.
It reminds me of the color scheme from Valaris.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's also the color scheme for more or less the Mariners and
The Seahawks.
football team, the local football team, the Seahawks, the local soccer team.
And the Seattle Rapid Transit.
And yeah, it's almost like Seattle. I don't know. There's a rule now. If you want to be there, you have to get on the branding.
So, we saw that they were going to announce something, and my first thought was maybe they're going to finally rebrand to get away from the Alaska name.
That would have been too costly. I don't think they would do that.
Do you really think that changing the name would make a difference? Does that skewing what people think Alaska does?
If there's actually an entire subset of population that actually looks at an airline's name and extrapolates that that's what they serve. So, I mean, I used to hear this about Northwest a lot. People would be like, why do you go to Seattle a lot? I'm like, no, they fly everywhere. So I'm sure Alaska has, for the person that doesn't fly.
So if we're going to go with the theory that people assume they fly based on what the name is, I guess then my question is, what's the target market for Virgin America?
Do we really?
How long are you thinking about that?
About 5 minutes now. I appreciate the setup, though. That was great, guys. All right. You want to call it a night? This is a George Costanza moment. I'm out.
Made a good joke. Everybody laughed. I'm done now.
We've actually been going on for like an hour, so we probably should kill it. There's a couple other topics we had, but we can roll them into next time. Nothing urgent. Any parting shots from you guys?
I think I had enough.
Steven, final word?
Nothing from me.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to Dots, Lines, and Destinations. You can find us at Dots Lines on Twitter or moredotsmorelines.com. Have a great trip.
Good night.